I just threw a truck at a dragon. I love my life.
The long-awaited sequel to the 2019 surprise hit Shazam, Fury of the Gods. If you've been on this channel for any amount of time, you know that I am a sworn hater of the DCEU. I hate how it was handled, I hate most of the movies, I hate its fan base because they're a bunch of toxic crybabies. I don't like a lot of the directors and actors they bring in, so the entire franchise has been a complete disaster. And again, it was poorly handled, and now it's even being rebooted because it failed so badly. So now we have a sequel to one of their best movies, and I was a bit skeptical about this, and I'll tell you why. If you saw my rant about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, you know exactly why, and it's because of Wonder Woman 1984. Because Wonder Woman was a good movie. I liked that one. It's one of the few movies in this godforsaken franchise that I actually like, and I was looking forward to the sequel, and it ended up crashing and burning and being one of the worst comic book films in the modern era. So I was very skeptical of this movie, even though it looked like a decent enough film. It looked like they were doing a lot more with the mythos than the first, which was one of my complaints with the first movie, that I felt a little too small in scale, that it didn't do a lot with the mythos of his character. But it seemed like they were doing that. It seemed like the action was up. It seemed like they were doing more with his powers. So this seemed like the ideal next step, especially since this franchise is pretty much getting canned. We don't know what they're doing with this. We don't know if they're going to make a third one. I kind of hope they do, but because I'll be honest, this wasn't that bad. This was actually a decent superhero movie. Now, is it a flawless masterpiece like some people have proclaimed it to be? Hell no. Of course there are problems. Like, I don't think there's been a other than maybe Shang-Chi, I don't think there's been a single superhero movie that I haven't had at least one problem with. I think Shang-Chi is the only one that I thought, at least to me, didn't really seem to have any problems. But yes, there are of course issues, but I do want to talk about the positive stuff, because this is probably the first positive review for a DC movie that I've ever done. Maybe Battle of the Super Sons, but that one was a little iffy, but this is the first actual, especially for live action DC, this is the first time I'm saying anything positive about it. So take it for what it's worth, and this probably won't last. The Flash movie looks awful, and I do want to talk about something that has nothing to do with the movie, but it does with my theater-going experience, is that the theater that I went to really struck out on the trailers. They had one good one. They had the Mario trailer, which is a movie that looks fucking awesome. But before that, it played 3 trailers for movies I just don't want to see. Barbie, I'm not seeing that. I am flat out not seeing it. I don't care how many people ask me to, I will not be seeing that. Little Mermaid, and you already know what I thought of that trailer, and The Flash, and once again, you already know what I thought of that trailer, so that was kind of irritating. It played 3 shitty trailers, but it went on a high note with the Mario trailer, so 1 out of 4. But let's talk about the movie proper. And like I said, it's a pretty decent superhero movie. Again, like I said, it's no flawless masterpiece. I will say the one thing that carries over from the first movie that's bad, and that's the effects. Or there are 2 things that carry over from the first movie, but the effects still look better. They don't look awful. Some of them look pretty good. Some of them look okay, and then there are some, especially when it comes to the green screens, especially in the scenes with the dragon, which, like, every time Lucy Liu stands in front of that dragon, I can tell it's not there. It is really artificial. There are a lot of effects that look like that, especially when it comes to the green screen and backgrounds and everything. The designs aren't that creative. I did like the design of some of the creatures near the end, like some of the mythical creatures, but other than that, all of the, like, temples and everything are all things we've seen before, and it's not interesting. It's just a hunk of rock. And again, with bad green screen, it's just like in the background, there's nothing interesting to look at anyway. And the second problem that carries over from the first movie is that it has a serious problem with tone. The first movie had will have a scene of Billy doing something stupid, Billy and Freddy doing stupid stuff, and then it cuts to Savannah and the 7 Deadly Sins throwing people out a window. And in this movie, you'll get similar scenes like that. You'll have the scenes of the heroes doing and saying stupid stuff, and then you also get the scenes of the villains just outright murdering people in horrific ways. I don't know why, but Sandberg cannot figure out these movies. He wants these movies to be lighthearted, but he also wants them to have dark moments, but he doesn't quite know how to gel them together. One that I think did it pretty well was Aquaman. I think that one gelled some of the darker scenes with the lighthearted humor quite well. These movies kind of struggle with, or hell, the first Wonder Woman did it pretty well too. These movies seem to kind of struggle with it. But that being said, and something I do want to talk about with Sandberg is that this movie's doing horribly at the box office. Like, absolutely horrible. Like, it was estimated $35 million, which is already bad, but it made around $30.5 million. And just to put that in perspective, Percy Jackson and the Olympians' The Lightning Thief made $31.2 in its opening weekend. And that was in 2010. Adjusting for inflation, that's around $43 million. This movie can't even beat a young adult movie that a lot of people didn't like. Hell, there are a lot of young adult movies that would have beat this at the box office, but I digress. Sandberg, unlike The Rock, which I did several rants on, he didn't try to spin it. He didn't try to spin and say, oh no, it's going to make a profit, or this, oh no, this is making a profit, these numbers are wrong, or these numbers aren't really what you think. He accepted it. He accepted that it was a flop. He's like, yeah, but we got paid, we made a fun movie, it is what it is. I would much rather have a director or actor come out and say that. It's like, it didn't do that great, and the critics are kind of split on it, but it's like, you know, we got paid, we made a fun movie, it is what it is. I'd rather someone say that than try to spin it as much as possible before admitting defeat. I'd rather them just admit defeat right off the bat. So I applaud Sandberg for that. And I like most of the actors in this movie. I will say that it was kind of weird. Ashner Angel had, like, no screen time in this movie. I really liked him in the first movie, and don't get me wrong, I like seeing Zachary Levi on screen. He's a really fun presence to have, but I really like Angel in this role, and he's in the movie for like 10 minutes. He's in his adult form pretty much the entire movie, and I get it, but it was still really weird to see. Like, in the first movie, the two actors, I don't think they got the exact same amount of screen time, but I feel like both of them got the appropriate amount of screen time. This one, it seems like Levi's on screen, like, the entire movie, and Angel only shows up every once in a while, which is really weird. And contrast that to Freddie Freeman. Jack Dylan Grazer is in a lot of this movie, and Adam Brody is virtually nowhere to be found. He's in the movie for even less than Ashner Angel. But I do like Grazer in the role. I think they went a little over the top with how, like, awkward he is when he first meets Anne. It was kind of funny. And that's another thing. The comedy is, unlike Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where when it hit, it only kind of hit, and when it didn't, it really didn't. This one, when it hits, it does legitimately hit. There are some jokes that were only okay, and then there were some jokes that had me cringing. But when you're making a two-hour comedy, you're gonna have some jokes that don't land. Even Deadpool, which is one of my favorites, probably my favorite superhero, like, movie advertised as a comedy, that it's probably one of my favorites. It still has jokes that don't land. Or hell, the Guardians movie still had jokes that didn't land. So you're not gonna find many superhero movies that don't have at least one bad joke. So I can give it a pass there. And of course, with the actors, I do have to bring up that the young version of Mary plays both parts. I don't know why the older actress who played Mary Marvel, or whatever the hell they would call her in this, I don't know why she wasn't in this, but the younger actress just perfectly fine in both roles. You can tell the kids really grew up, because a lot of them look really different, except for Mary, obviously, because she was older than the others. And I do have to bring up I of course have to bring up the controversy about them making Pedro gay. Honestly, the way the movie handled it was fine. I'm not gonna flip out over every single time a movie does this, because I hate it when it's done as a marketing tool. That's what Lightyear and Strange World and all the Disney stuff did. That's why I hated those, because they used it as marketing. Here, within the movie, it's done fine. It was actually, in the joke, and the climax of that joke, with the joke, I can't figure out how to say, but it was pretty funny how they handled it. It was fine. My problem is that the people behind the movie claimed that it was hinted at in the first movie. And no, it fucking wasn't. I even went back and hell, Pedro has like 5 lines in the first movie, so how do you even spin that? But no, I went back and rewatched the first movie before seeing this movie, and no, it wasn't. It was not hinted at ahead of time. That was a load of shit. So I was fine with it until they lied their asses off. The villains are an odd case, because I like Helen Mirren, I like Lucy Liu, but it seems like they tried to pull a bait and switch, like one of them just became overly power hungry, or I guess really revenge driven, like basically wants to destroy humanity at this point. She became a really boring villain. And then Mirren's character, is it Hespera, I think, and then Anthea, who's Rachel Zegler, who I hate. I hate Rachel Zegler. I talked about this in my D23 rant, but I digress. Both of those characters, of course, became good guys. I knew Anthea was going to, and so that wasn't really shot. I was kind of surprised what they did with Hespera, and I like how they did it with her. I like how they handled it. I don't like how they handled the Yu's character, though. She just, all of a sudden, just automatically flips around. Like, she no longer, like, their motivation is that they want revenge for their father's death. Not quite sure how you kill a god, and it was never really, and that's something else that this movie struggles with. It doesn't explain the mythology. The mythology is very glossed over. We don't see any, like, flashback of their father being killed or anything like that, or the power being taken. It's all told through us through exposition. And there's a lot of exposition in this movie. There's an entire scene where Mary just explains exposition to the audience by reminding Billy of stuff he already knows. That is the worst way to write exposition. So, yeah, the movie fails on backstory, that's for damn sure. Because we don't see any of these flashbacks. It's all told through the heroes looking through these books. Although I will say, I do appreciate that they didn't have to spend a shitload of time trying to figure out who the villains were. They figured it out pretty quickly, and even Billy, who's a complete idiot in these movies, and they even point that out several times, when he sees the name Anthea on there, because he knows Freddy's met Anne, who's Anthea, obviously. As soon as he sees the name, he knows exactly who it is. That's something I would praise that I haven't talked about yet with Flash Season 9, where it's like, as soon as they see Red Death, they start piecing everything together automatically. They don't have to spend a shitload of time trying to figure things out like they normally do. So I appreciate that in this movie. They figure everything out pretty quickly, so we don't have to spend a ton of time with this movie just watching these heroes just sit around trying to figure out what the hell to do. They figure it out really quickly, and we're back to the action. So I appreciate that. The fight scenes are okay. The final battle I had kind of an issue with because it started to tread into Man of Steel territory, and you all know how much I hate just the city destruction that leads to nothing. Like, I gave it, like, Age of Ultron, I liked how they did it there, where they blew up an entire city because it had consequences. It had consequences that led into Civil War. Man of Steel had no consequences, and this movie doesn't really seem like it had any consequences either for them, like tearing apart half the city with mythical creatures. And hell, even blowing up the frickin' Philadelphia Philly Stadium. But the action sequences were fun to watch. They had some good quips out of the heroes, and they had some decent enough choreography. I did really like the final battle between Billy and Liu's character. I forget which goddess she's supposed to be. But so yeah, the final verdict. I don't know if do I want to get my final verdict? Or is there anything else to talk about? Musical score is pretty good. Oh, the end credit scenes. I should talk about the end credit scenes. The first one sets up Billy being recruited for the Justice Society. Not sure if that's really going to go anywhere, but we'll see. And then the second one features Dr. Savannah and Mr. Mind. Again. This is something I'm getting really irritated with, is that the end credit scenes are supposed to set up the next movie, right? And there's so many end credit scenes now that lead to nothing. The Spider-Man Homecoming one led to nothing because we haven't seen Matt Garkin show up since that end credit scene. And this one, it was a setup for another end credit scene to possibly set up for a third movie. That's bullshit. That annoyed the hell out of me. So, yeah, Final Verdict. This is a perfectly fun movie. I'm not shocked it's not doing shocked. I'm not shocked that it's not doing that well at the box office because nobody cares about these upcoming 4 movies because they have no impact on the reboot, at least in theory. But like I've been saying for years, I want DC to be good, so I went into this movie wanting to like it, and I did. Like, the other DC movies, again, I want to like most of them, except for Black Adam. I didn't want to like that, and thankfully I didn't. And the Flash movie, I only don't want to like it because of Ezra Miller's presence. If he wasn't in the movie, I'd be going into... The movie still looks like crap, but I'd at least hold out hope for it. if there was a different actor in place. Because it's Ezra Miller, I can't look forward to it. Same thing with Aquaman. Can't look forward to it because it has Amber Heard in it. And from what I've heard, the movie's trash. And I just have no interest in Blue Beetle, so I just don't care about that one. So, yeah, that's all I got for Shazam! Fear of the Gods. I'm giving this a C+ because it is a good movie, but it has its issues that bring it down. And most of it's on the technical side. And I will say the pacing for this movie was kind of all over the place. There are times where characters just kind of disappear and don't show up for like half an hour. So, yeah, so pacing, effects, and tone kind of brought this movie down a bit. But I'd still say go see it. And if you don't want to see it in theaters, I'm perfectly content with a red box rental. I'll probably see this movie again, not in theaters. I'll probably purchase the Blu-ray when it comes out. But yeah, that's all I got for Shazam! Fear of the Gods. I'll see you all next time.